The war, in its most brutal essence, transforms humanity. It distorts individuals, turning them into hardened fighters, into figures driven by conflict. But there are moments in history where the line between human and something else completely blurs. Moments where reality itself bends to an overwhelming dread. In 1915, in the depths of a conflict that would redefine hardship, war didn't just change men. It created an enduring legend, a legend of those who refused to yield. Imagine, for a moment, a profound sense of unease, not the fear of ending, but the fear of the unexpected return. What would you do if the adversary you just overcame, whom you saw fall, rose from the toxic mist to confront you, to draw you back into the struggle you thought you had concluded? This is the story of Ozuik, the story of a day when the impossible seemed to happen. A legend that echoes bravery and the immense challenge the human spirit can endure. The year is 1915. World War I consumes Europe. Ozuik Fortress, an isolated Russian stronghold, became a persistent obstacle for the German Empire. It wasn't just a fortification. It was a symbol of resistance, a formidable barrier preventing the German advance towards railway lines and cities. For months, it resisted relentless attacks, an unyielding presence against steel and fire. The Germans had tried everything. Nothing worked. Frustrated and desperate for a decisive victory, the Germans resorted to a new and terrible form of warfare, a weapon that promised total incapacitation. Chlorine gas, a devastating invention used for the first time at Ypres just months earlier, leaving a path of destruction. In the early morning of August 6th, the air was heavy, the pre-dawn silence broken only by the distant grinding of German gears. At 4 a.m., a devastating attack began. More than 30 German artillery batteries opened fire, not with explosive shells, but with gas cylinders. A wave of chlorine gas, a greenish yellow mist, dense and creeping, began to crawl across the ground. It wasn't an explosion, but a silent invasion, a pervasive cloud that moved with inexorable slowness, engulfing trenches, bunkers, and the men within them. The Russian soldiers, unprepared, without adequate gas masks, were caught in a harrowing situation. The gas caused severe irritation to their eyes, throats, and lungs. It was an unbearable sensation. Chlorine reacted with moisture in the tissues, creating corrosive compounds that damaged the respiratory tracts, leading to severe breathing difficulties. Desperate, they tried what they could. Rags soaked in water, in mud, in their own urine, pressed against their faces. A futile attempt to filter the harmful substance that compromised their airways, turning the air into a dangerous vapor. The sound of distressed breathing, retching, and muffled cries echoed through the trenches as vitality was slowly, painfully drained from their body. The mist not only incapacitated, it caused immense suffering, leaving men struggling with altered complexions, inflamed eyes, and signs of distress. The silence that followed the gas storm was more unsettling than any scream, a silence of profound stillness. The Germans, protected by their gas masks, waited. They knew the effects of chlorine. They knew few could survive such a concentration without protection. Victory seemed within their grasp. Easy. A victory without German casualties. Just the gas doing its grim work at 11 a.m. As the mist began to dissipate, revealing a scene of widespread devastation, 7,000 German soldiers advanced, supported by artillery and machine guns. They were the 11th Landwehr Division, an overwhelming force, confident, marching over a desolate landscape. Their objectives were clear: occupy the fortress, assess the situation, consolidate victory. The Russian artillery, silenced by the gas, offered no resistance. The trenches seemed empty, the observation posts inert. The Germans advanced with a strange mix of caution and arrogance. The lingering scent of chlorine still hung in the air, mixed with a metallic odor of conflict and the unsettling smell of decay. They stepped over the fallen, their forms altered by the ordeal, with vacant eyes and mouths open in a silent expression of agony. It was a barren, desolate landscape where life had been profoundly impacted. Victory seemed assured, a triumph of strategy over resilience, of technology over human endurance. But what they didn't know was that they were about to witness something that would defy expectation, something that would challenge their understanding of what was possible, something that would stay with them forever. The silence was not of surrender, but of a profound tension that had not yet fully revealed itself. Then the mist opened, and an astonishing sight materialized. It wasn't men emerging from the depths of that green miasma, but figures of immense resolve. About 100 Russian soldiers, the last defenders of the fortress. The dead men staggered out of the haze. Their uniforms, once gray, were now in tatters, stained with the effects of the gas. Their faces, marked by chemical exposure, complexions altered and swollen, eyes red and watery, some vision impaired, others with damaged cornea. They echoed a guttural, wet sound, which was deeply unsettling. A struggle for breath from compromised lungs. They struggled for air, while each breath was an agonizing effort, a silent expression of pain that cut through the air. But in their hands, bayonets, and in their eyes, an unyielding determination, an iron will that transcended physical limits. The sight was so unexpected, so unnatural, that the thousands of Germans stopped, frozen. The confident advance turned into a shock of disbelief, then dread. They were not fighting ordinary men. They were fighting figures, driven by a last, terrible will for revenge. The sound of labored coughing, the clatter of bayonets, the lingering scent of the aftermath of the gas attack. Pure terror seized the Germans. Discipline crumbled. How to fight something that seems to defy the natural order? How to confront those who have already endured so much? The human mind was not prepared for such a spectacle. It was not a battle. It was a living nightmare. The dead men advanced, bayonets fixed, a wave of agony and fury, and the Germans, outnumbered 70-1, began to retreat. It was not a tactical retreat. It was a desperate flight, an irrational panic in the face of what seemed supernatural. They saw not soldiers, but determined spirits, vengeful figures who had returned from the chemical ordeal to confront them. If you think reality is scarier than fiction, hit that like button now. Your interaction helps bring more stories like this to light. Panic spread like a disease. The 7,000 Germans, who had advanced with such confidence, did not fight. They fled. They abandoned their weapons, trampling over each other in their chaotic retreat, falling into their own barbed wire traps, suffering injuries and casualties not by the hand of the enemy, but by the profound terror that the enemy had instilled. The sight of the dead men was so overwhelming that it shattered the discipline of an entire army. Transforming a fighting force into a terrified mass, the 100 Russians, in their last act of defiance, retook the position. They had done their duty. They had defended the fortress, but the gas had taken its toll. One by one, they succumbed, exhausted, their bodies finally giving in to the effects of the poison. They died, but not before etching an indelible image of profound courage and determination into the minds of their enemies. The Osijek fortress was abandoned days later, as the Germans, though they had retreated, eventually surrounded and took it. But the morale, the psychological victory, belonged to the Russians. The legend of the dead man would echo through the annals of military history, a testament to what the human will is capable of when confronted with extreme adversity. The story of the dead men of Osijek is more than a war anecdote. It is a chilling testament to the human capacity to resist, to fight, even when all is lost. It forces us to confront the truth that the human will can transcend physical limits when there is nothing left to lose. It is a grim reminder of what conflict can do to bodies and minds, transforming them into something unrecognizable, but also of the unbreakable capacity of the human spirit to fight until the last breath. It is a story that makes us question the limits of pain, fear, and determination. Proof that, even in the direst circumstances, humanity can find a way to rise, even if it's just to confront its tormentors. And perhaps, just perhaps, that is the most terrifying and inspiring form of heroism. If you dare to explore more real and compelling stories from the battlefield, delve into the profound corners of military history and psychological drama. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to not miss the next dives into the depths of history. Until next time, and may your rest be peaceful.